There were only 3 of us and 12 men. They sexually assaulted us for hours. I truly believed I wasn't going to survive that night.
You know, looking back, I think the version of me before everything went sideways was just trying to hold it all together the only way I knew how. I was 21, living in Complexo do Alemão, in this tiny cinder block house with my mum. The place always smelled like damp concrete and whatever perfume she'd sprayed to cover up the night before. Mornings were my favourite part, weirdly enough. I'd wake up early, make coffee on the little stove, and sometimes I'd sit on the step outside, just watching the favela. Wake up, the kids running to school, the moto taxis beeping, the women hanging laundry between the wires. I was working at a small salon a couple blocks away, sweeping hair off the floor, washing clients' heads, learning how to do basic cuts and blowouts. The owner, Donna Rosa, let me practice on the older ladies, who didn't mind if I messed up a little. I loved it. There was something satisfying about making someone feel pretty, even for an hour. I used to tell myself that one day I'd have my own place. Nothing fancy, just a clean little studio with good lighting and music playing. I even had a notebook where I'd sketch different salon layouts when I couldn't sleep. Stupid dreams, but they kept me going. School had always been spotty. I'd missed too many days helping my mom when she was sick, which usually meant she'd had a rough night. By the time I was a teenager, I was the one answering the door when her regular clients showed up. I'd make them coffee, keep my eyes down, and then disappear into the back room with my books. Everybody in the neighborhood knew who my mother was. Cami, filha da fulana, they'd say, daughter of that woman. I hated it, but I learned to smile through it. What else could I do? My mom, she wasn't all bad. When she was sober, she could be funny as hell. She'd paint my nails different colors and tell me stories about when she was young, before everything got heavy. But those times got rarer. I was the one keeping track of money, hiding some of it so the guys she owed wouldn't take everything. I got good at lying about where the extra cash came from when she asked. I told myself it was just temporary. Finish high school, get better at hair, move us out of there. There was this older guy, Seu Jorge, who used to come around. He wasn't like the others. He was a bookie, rough around the edges, but he always slipped me a little extra money and told me to stay in school. Sometimes he'd sit with me on the step and talk about old times or give me advice like a grumpy uncle. He was the only person who made me feel like maybe I wasn't completely alone in all this. I trusted him more than I probably should have. I was scared, though. Really scared that I'd wake up one day at 40 and be exactly like her. Tired, broke, still waiting for the next guy to pay the bills. I'd see her bruises and hear her crying in the middle of the night and swear to myself I'd get us both out. I just needed a little more time, a little more money. I started picking up extra work here and there, whatever I could do to help with rent and her debts. I thought if I could just keep us afloat until I finished my courses, we'd be okay. I remember one evening I came home and found her passed out on the couch. I cleaned her up, covered her with a blanket, and sat there eating cold rice and beans while I studied for an exam I had the next day. That was my life. Not glamorous, not even stable, but it was mine. I still had hope back then. I still believed that if I worked hard enough and kept my head down, I could build something better. I had no idea how fast it could all slip away. Things started getting heavier, but it wasn't like one big explosion. It was more like little cracks that kept spreading. My mum's bad nights were happening more often. She'd disappear for a day or two, come back with empty eyes and new bruises. The money I was making at the salon wasn't stretching far enough anymore. Rent went up. Then the electric company started threatening to cut us off. I'd come home after standing on my feet for 10 hours and find her crying on the couch, saying she owed this guy and that guy, promising it would be the last time. I tried picking up more hours. Donna Rosa was good to me, but she couldn't give me full time. I started doing little side things, braiding hair for neighbors, running errands for the older ladies, whatever paid a few extra rees. At night, I'd sit under the bare bulb, trying to study for my high school equivalency, but I was so tired my eyes would cross. I'd fall asleep with the notebook on my lap and wake up with a stiff neck, feeling like I was failing at everything. The arguments with my mom got worse. She'd yell that I was ungrateful, that she sacrificed everything for me. I'd yell back that I was the one keeping the lights on. Then we'd both go quiet because we knew neither of us had any real answers. I started feeling this heavy weight in my chest all the time, like I couldn't breathe right. Say Jorge would check in sometimes, slip me some cash, tell me to be careful. He said my mom was getting mixed up with a bad crowd, but I didn't want to hear it. I still believed I could fix it if I just worked harder. 1 month the debts piled up so bad we almost got kicked out. I sold the little gold chain my grandmother had given me. I remember standing in that pawn shop, feeling sick to my stomach, but we needed the roof over our heads. My hands started shaking sometimes when I was doing hair, from the stress and the lack of sleep. Clients would ask if I was okay, and I'd just smile and say I was fine. Inside, I was scared all the time, scared we'd end up on the street, scared I'd never get my own salon, scared I was turning into exactly what I swore I wouldn't. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just a rough patch. My mum would get better, we'd get ahead. But deep down, I could feel the ground getting softer under my feet, like it was slowly giving way. I didn't know how much longer I could keep holding on. The breaking point came slow, like water wearing down stone. My mum got deeper into the drugs. She wasn't just using anymore, she was gone for days, coming back paranoid and twitching. The debts weren't to the usual guys anymore. These were serious people, the kind who don't just break your windows. One night she came home with a split lip and told me they wanted payment. Not money this time, they wanted me for 3 months. To work for them and clear what she owed. I told her no, flat out. I said I'd find another way, that I'd talk to Seu Jorge, borrow from anybody, sell everything we had. I spent the next 2 days running around the favela like a crazy person, asking for extra shifts, offering to clean houses, even considering going to a church shelter. Nothing worked. The amounts were too big and people knew better than to get involved with that crew. Every door closed in my face. I was so angry at her. I screamed that she had no right, that I wasn't her ticket out of her mess. She just sat there crying, saying she'd die if they came for her, that she gave me life and now I had to help save hers. She kept repeating, "If you love me, Cami, you'll do this for us. 3 months and we're free. We'll get clean together. Start over." I hated her for putting it like that, because part of me still felt like I owed her. She raised me even if she did it badly. I was the one who dragged her to the hospital when I was 11. I'd been taking care of her my whole life. What was 3 months if it meant we could finally escape? I barely slept. I kept thinking there had to be another option. I even packed a bag once, ready to run, but I couldn't leave her there to face them alone. The shame of it all ate at me. The idea of doing what she did, of letting men, God, I felt sick just thinking about it. But the fear of losing her, of ending up with nothing, of watching them hurt her again like when I was a kid, it was stronger. In the end, I sat on the edge of her bed while she held my hands, tears running down her face. She looked so small and broken. I swallowed hard and said the words I never thought I'd say. "Okay, 3 months, but after that, we're done. We leave all of this behind." They picked me up in an old black car just after dark. The driver didn't say much, just told me to get in the back. We drove for about 20 minutes through parts of the city I didn't know well, ending up at this plain-looking apartment building in a quieter neighborhood. Nothing fancy on the outside, just concrete and metal gates. A guy at the door checked a message on his phone and nodded me inside without a word. The apartment was on the 5th floor. When I stepped in, it smelled like cigarette smoke and air freshener. There was a man waiting, maybe 45, wearing a nice watch and a button-up shirt. He looked like somebody's uncle who had money. He smiled a little too much and said, "You must be Camilla. Relax, it's going to be fine." He offered me a glass of water. I took it but barely drank any. He talked for a bit about how this was just business, that I'd be paid well if I was good company. I nodded along, my hands shaking in my lap. There was this long silence where I could hear the fridge humming. He asked if it was my first time doing something like this. I lied and said no. I think he knew I was lying. The next part is hard to talk about even now. It happened in the bedroom. The lights were low, he wasn't rough, but it still felt completely wrong. I kept my eyes on the wall and tried to go somewhere else in my head. It didn't last too long, thank God. Afterward, he got up, lit a cigarette, and told me I did okay for a beginner. He counted out the money right there on the nightstand, more cash than I'd ever held at once. He folded it and handed it to me like it was nothing. I stuffed it in my bag without counting. My legs felt weird when I stood up. I fixed my clothes in the bathroom mirror, splashed water on my face, and tried not to look at myself too long. The same car was waiting downstairs. The ride home was quiet, except for the radio playing some old samba. I stared out the window watching the city lights blur. When I finally got back to our house, my mum was waiting on the couch. She looked at me but didn't say anything. I handed her most of the money and went straight to my room. I sat on my bed in the dark, holding the little bit I kept for myself. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same girl who left that apartment a few hours earlier, and I knew there was no going back. The money changed things fast. After that first night, I paid off the biggest chunk of what my mum owed and still had enough left to breathe. For the first time, I wasn't counting every reel. I bought groceries without worrying, got my mum some medicine, and even paid for a better internet connection so I could look up cosmetology courses again. It felt like I could finally see a way out. Then the clients started asking for more of my time. One guy, a businessman from Sao Paulo, took me to dinner at this rooftop place in Ipanema, the kind with the little lights everywhere and plates that looked like art. I sat there in a new black dress he'd sent over, eating steak that melted in my mouth, listening to him talk about his deals. I kept thinking, I can't believe this is my life right now. A few weeks later, another client flew me to a hotel in Florianopolis. The room had a huge balcony overlooking the ocean. I took a picture of the view on my phone and just stared at it for a long time. I started dressing nicer. Nice jeans, good shoes, a couple of designer bags from gifts. My mum noticed. She didn't complain anymore when I stayed out late. Sometimes she'd even ask how it went, like it was a regular job. We talked about moving to a better apartment, maybe even Copacabana one day. The lie I kept telling myself got stronger. 3 months, 6 at the most, then we'd both be clean and out. But it wasn't just the money. There was this weird thrill to seeing how the other half lived. I went to a private party once where everyone was dressed up and the music was perfect. I overheard a guy who worked in politics casually talking about bribes like it was the weather. Another client had me fly business class with him just to keep him company on the way to Brasilia. The flight attendant brought me champagne and I almost laughed out loud at how crazy it was. Of course not everything felt good. There were nights I'd be in some beautiful apartment and the guy would want me to listen to him cry about his marriage for hours. Or he'd make strange little requests that made me feel like a prop instead of a person. One man wanted me to wear a specific perfume and call him by his childhood nickname. Another got quiet and intense in ways that made the hair on my arms stand up. I learned to smile, nod, and get through it. The extra cash made it easier to push those feelings down. Little by little, the boundaries moved. Staying overnight became normal. Cancelling plans with the few friends I had left became normal. Checking my phone for the next booking before I even got home became normal. The favela started feeling like a place I visited instead of where I lived. I'd come back from a nice hotel, take a shower, and look around our little house like I didn't quite fit there anymore. By the end of those first months, I wasn't splitting my life in two anymore. This new world, the hotels, the money, the nice dinners, the secrets, had become my regular life. And even though part of me knew it was dangerous, I wasn't ready to let it go. The months started blending together. At first, I told myself I was still in control. I had rules, I had limits. But those rules kept changing without me really noticing. Some clients were okay. There was this older executive who just wanted someone to eat dinner with and listen to him talk about his golf game. He tipped well and never got weird, but then there were others. One guy would book me for the whole night and spend hours telling me how special I was, how different from the others, then get mad if I checked my phone even once. I learned to keep it on silent and smile no matter what. I got really good at reading people in the first 5 minutes, figuring out if they wanted to talk, to be praised, or just to be left alone. I started living at night. I'd sleep until 3 or 4 in the afternoon, then get ready and head out. My mum stopped asking where I was going. I missed my cousin's birthday, then my own 24th. I told myself I'd make it up later. Old friends from the neighborhood texted less and less. I made excuses, said I was working late at a new salon. After a while, I stopped replying altogether. It was easier that way. The crew my mum owed money to kept extending the 3 months. First it was 1 more month, then another. They treated me like I belonged to them. They'd call me at weird hours, send cars, tell me where to go and who I'd be with. I learned to pack a small bag with everything I might need. Makeup, charger, cash, emergency panties. I started deleting messages the second I left a hotel. I had 3 different names I used depending on the client. Camilla became Cami, then sometimes just Baby or whatever they wanted. There was this one weekend they sent me to a big house outside the city. 3 guys there. They weren't violent, but they were loud and drunk and passed me around like I was part of the entertainment. I smiled, laughed at their jokes, poured their drinks. Inside, I felt completely empty. When it was over, they paid me extra and told me I was a good girl. I took the money and went home, showered for almost an hour, then slept for 14 hours straight. Luxury stopped feeling special. The nice hotels all started looking the same. Room service, fancy sheets, minibars, I barely noticed anymore. I'd sit in business class and flip through the menu without any excitement. The money was still good, but it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like survival. I got really good at pretending I was interested in their stories, pretending I wasn't counting the minutes until I could leave, pretending I wasn't scared when a client got that look in his eye. I'd lie to my mom without even thinking about it. Lie to say Jorge when he asked how I was really doing. I had fake stories, ready about working night shifts at a hotel or helping rich ladies with their hair. My body started feeling like it wasn't completely mine. I'd catch myself checking the exits in every new room without realizing I was doing it. When a booking got cancelled last minute, I'd feel this huge wave of relief, then guilt, because I knew I needed the cash. Days of the week stopped mattering. It was just bookings and sleep and more bookings. I stopped dreaming about the salon. That notebook I used to keep, I don't even know where it went. The girl who wanted to wash hair and make women feel pretty felt like somebody I used to know. Now I was someone who could sit through conversations about offshore accounts and affairs and not even blink. Someone who carried rolls of cash in her purse and knew which hotels had the best security. There was one night I came home really late and found my mum high again. She hugged me and said I was saving us. I just nodded and went to my room. I looked at myself in the cracked mirror we had and didn't recognize the girl staring back. But I kept going, because by then this life had become normal. Not good, not even okay, just normal. And that scared me more than anything. They called me in the afternoon and said it was going to be a special evening at a private club. Something different, better money. I was tired, but I'd learned not to ask too many questions. The car picked me up along with 3 other girls I didn't know. Nobody talked much on the ride. When we got there, it was this big house turned into a club. Lights low, music thumping. Inside there were maybe 12 guys, most of them older, already drinking heavy and doing lines on the tables. At first, it seemed like a normal party. They gave us drinks, told us to relax and mingle, but after an hour the mood shifted. One of the guys in charge lined us up in the middle of the room and started this game. Whoever paid the most got to choose what happened next. The bids went up fast. The air felt thick, the laughter too loud. I kept smiling because that's what you do, but my stomach was turning. I got picked by this big, sweaty guy. He looked happy with himself. We went to one of the side rooms. At first he was just rough, but then he got mean. He started slapping me across the face while he was on top of me. Hard. I tried to stay calm, told myself it would be over soon. Then he called his friends in. More of them came. They took turns. Hours went by. They were filming on their phones, laughing, saying nasty shit, spitting on me. Someone choked me until everything went black for a minute. I remember thinking, this can't be real. This isn't happening. My mum knew exactly where they were taking me that night. She had sent me anyway. When it finally ended, I was on the floor. There was blood. My face hurt. My body hurt. Everything felt far away. The guys were already moving on, pouring more drinks, like it was just another Saturday. Nobody helped me up. I got myself dressed somehow, legs shaking, and made it outside. The same car was waiting. The driver didn't look at me, just drove me back toward the city. I sat in the back seat, staring at nothing. When I got home, my mum was there. She looked at my face but didn't say anything. I gave her the money they'd thrown at me and went to my room. I couldn't even cry. I just lay there thinking about how she had sent me, knowing what they were like. In that moment, every excuse I'd made for her, every time I told myself we'd get out together, it all fell apart. I couldn't do this anymore. Not one more night, not one more car. Something inside me finally broke for good. I tried to leave 3 different times before it actually stuck. The first time I packed a bag and stayed with a friend for 2 nights, but the crew started calling my mum, making threats, and I went back because I was scared for her. The second time I changed my number and hid for a week, but the loneliness and the money stress pulled me right back in. It took that last night, lying on that floor, for something to finally snap. Sir Jorge saved my life. He found out what happened, paid what he could to calm things down, and helped me disappear into another favela for a few months. I stayed inside most days, jumping at every noise. I had nightmares where I could still feel hands on me and hear the laughing. I'd wake up sweating and check the door 10 times before I could go back to sleep. Panic attacks would hit me out of nowhere. Heart racing, couldn't breathe, feeling like I was back in that room. Leaving meant starting over with almost nothing. I got a job cleaning rooms at a small hotel during the day. The pay was terrible, but it was honest. I enrolled in a cosmetology course at night, forcing myself to show up even when I felt dead inside. There were days I wanted to quit everything. The shame was heavy. I felt dirty, like everyone could see what I'd been. Trusting people was impossible. Even nice guys who asked me out made me freeze up. I moved to Copacabana eventually, to a tiny studio apartment I could barely afford. My mum tried reaching out a few times. I never answered. I haven't spoken to her in years. Some people say family is family, but she sold me. That's not something I can forgive. I still carry that anger. Rebuilding was slow. I finished the course, started working in someone else's salon, then scraped together enough to open my own small beauty studio. It's nothing fancy, just a clean space with 3 chairs and good lighting. I work long hours, but they're my hours. I take care of girls who are trying to get out, give them discounts, listen when they need to talk, sometimes help them find safe places to stay. I see myself in them and it keeps me going. Even now at 29, parts of it still follow me. I have nights where I can't sleep. I still check exits in restaurants without thinking. Relationships are hard. I push people away when they get too close. I regret not running at 18 when I had the chance. That one decision would have changed everything. But I'm here. I made it out. I wake up in my own place now. I make coffee, open the studio, listen to women talk about their kids, their husbands, their dreams while I do their hair. Some days are good. Some days the memories hit hard and I have to step outside for air. I don't know if I'll ever feel completely normal, whatever that means. But I know I'm no longer that girl who thought she had to save everyone else to be worth something. If you're listening to this and you're still in it, just know the way out is ugly and long and you'll probably fall a few times. But you can crawl out. I did. The only person who can truly save you is yourself. I learned that the hard way, crawling through hell just to stand here today.